Boom, boom, bam.
Say one, yeah? All right. We will start, we are on page Vov. We will start on line number 5. The line begins with what She'ene Roi. And the Rebbe describes in this last discussion put maybe a lion in the back.
This is the wow, okay. Yeah, you mentioned it happened. Oh, this is the Candyman's draw here.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Oh, and there's candy in there?
Yeah.
Come on.
Try to break in with his knee.
Come on.
Huh?
Give me some candy.
It's from his side. Yeah.
I already said breakfast.
Right.
Okay, sorry.
Thanks a lot.
Came here to avoid the water.
All right, fine. The line starts with the word She'ene Roi. And the Rebbe is describing in the last section that we were learning the effect of the kav. Now the kav is the means of measurement. It provides a measurement. It provides two functions, basically. They're interrelated, but there are two functions, identifiable functions. One is to measure what type of hashpah should come to at every level in order to facilitate the presence of that particular level. And the other thing is that it should not, that the hashpah should stay put, so to speak, in the line of kedusha, and it should not be usurped by klipa. Should not go into the wrong perception. This is also the union of the kav. And at the end of this line, She'ene Roi, it should not go to an inappropriate place. V'zehu, and that is, how is this accomplished? To guard the hashpah of Elokus, of the oir, that it should go exclusively where it is destined to go. It is lefi shehamshocha hi bebchinas pnimi. It is due to the fact that the hamshocha elikis coming through the kav is in a manner, and it has the quality of oir pnimi, which we will discuss when we finish the presentation. Bebchinas oir pnimi, and oir that imbues itself in internalized, bebchinas gvul midah, in a measured manner, ali dezeh, and thereby, because of the gvul and midah and the oil is produced, nimshach davke lemokim haroi. It is brought exclusively mokim haroi to the appropriate place. The principle of oil pnimi. Take a very an illustration of something that we discussed that is both. It is intelligent. It is conceptualized, and yet it is also a spiritual. There's a spirit of intellect in it, and it is very exact and precise. This was when we discussed the Ayin, that a person has a dwelling, he has a home, and he occupies the home. Every aspect, every last square inch of the home is where he lives. Because this is a person has this oil that is nimshach, and it brings a person to this dwelling in a complete unification with the dwelling, even though the person himself is a limited entity, and he stays only in one corner of the dwelling, but he's actually present everywhere. But then take this same person and put him into a dwelling that is completely out of measure of a human dwelling, like put him into Empire State Building. He won't be able to relate to it. You would think, of course, it's wonderful. It's not wonderful. It will miss the mark, and it will not provide him the peace of mind that a person has in his dwelling, because he won't be able to relate to it. So here is a clear illustration of a very important principle. On the one hand, a dwelling is what encompasses him. This is like a makif of the person. So what's the difference how big the room is? Or how big the house is? It encompasses him. On the other hand, no, it has to be something that is in proximity to his sense of what it means to be encompassed in a dwelling. Because a human being, by nature, being a human being, this is the special creation of the image, and he's an oyer pnimi. Oyer pnimi means that he relates with intellect. He identifies with the place where he lives and with the things that he does. And if we provide him with infinity, and it doesn't have any particular meaning to him, he won't. You're destroying him. You're not giving him a chance to be a human being. This is what we said recently several times. We said, what is the primary rotzoin, will of the human being? The primary. The will that emanates directly from his being, from his presence, from his being a human being. What is his rotzon? To be a human being. And this rotzon is what defines what kind of dwelling he can relate to. He lives in a dwelling not because he is there, but because he wants to be in a dwelling. He has the rotzen. He has. They say the pshat a rotzen. A rotzen emanates from the etzem, but it identifies what the etzem is in an exposed manner. They say the pshat that this oir is b'chinas oir pnimi. The oir hakav throughout the entire Seder Hishtalshelus has the element of oir pnimi. Defined. Its inyan is not just to illuminate. Its inyan is to illuminate, to bring the message of what this light stands for. And if the keli is appropriate, it'll give him a lot of light. If the keli is not suitable, it'll give him a measured light according to the keli, that he shouldn't get lost in it. And this is how the effect of this is, and we said many things, and the last point is that this is how this oir stays within the Sitr de Kedusha, because Klippa knows no bounds. Reminding of the exchange between the two brothers, Yankov and Esav. We discussed it in the past. Yankov said, "Yesh li koil." Esav said, "Yesh li rov." And Rashi points out, look at this. Esav said, "Yesh li rov." I have more than I need. He spoke in a guy with a Yankov says, "Yesh li koil." I have everything that I need. But if you look at it as if from the side, it's like coil. Hey, what's more, coil or a lot? Coil is everything. It's a grandeur type of an expression than Yeshli Rov. But if you look into the meaning of these words, Yeshli Koil means I have my function. I have my purpose. Yeshli Rov means I have without a purpose. I just have. Klippa cannot be laid to limit. He wants to go to the source of all sources, the unlimited source, the undefined source. And then he becomes an independent entity. I have the real thing. I have Rov. Yankov says, no, I have all that I need. And that way, he stays connected to the source. And this is the important point, and final important point I want to point out. This is the difference between Esav and Yankov, and Kedusha and Klippa. In order for Klippa to acknowledge that it has something, it has to have it in a manner that he is totally independent and severed from the source where he got it from. Kedusha is just the opposite. Kedusha, what is significant to Kedusha is that he has that which the source provides for him, and he is connected to the source. He knows where he got it from, and he is appreciative of the fact that through that he is connected to the source. This is why Kedusha wants a limit. The limit reminds him of the fact that, hey, this is measured to give you what you need by the giver. Klippa says, I don't want any measure. I want to be independent. I want to get to the source where the source gets it from. I want to have it on my own.
Is the Kav affecting this? Like
the Kav, because the Kav is given the Kav Hamido. That's the principle.
When you say before it comes to the Kav, it's not in this way, and as a result of the air going through the Kav, the Hamshach is in a way of air Panimi and Miduk Vul.
That's right.
So I
But
understand.
the Kav, it's inside.
I understand the middle bullet you're explaining, but the Erpanimi, I'm not sure I understood from the mashal. How does that mashal illustrate Erpanimi, the mashal of the man in the building?
Why can't he relate to the bigger building? Functionally, on the contrary, he's got more of it, but he can relate to it because he is by nature a pnimi, which means things have to have a meaning. This room, what is it about?
But that seems to be more of a result of the fact that the Empire State Building, the Fiarach of a person, is not in a way of Gvul Mida. It's too big for him to really relate to it.
Too big.
Huh? Well, he can't relate. He can't, like we're saying in terms of kedusha, that kedusha needs to be able to relate to the source. If it's unlimited, then so to speak, you get lost in the hashpad. You can't recognize the place where it's coming from.
No, it's both. The place where it's come from, that was lessening it, but it can find itself in it. What is the point? Like I said, what is the Ratzon HaAdam? Not the primary Ratzon HaAdam is not to rule over others. It is to be himself. What is the Ratzon HaAdam in Klippa? To rule over others.
So the idea of Erpanimi here is that it's first off, it's something which whatever the Hamshach is being drawn to, it's that it can relate to it, and in addition to that, it's in a way of midu gvul.
As a result, yes, the midu gvul, that is what allows him to relate to it, and he wants that midu gvul, not because he wants midu gvul, but because he wants pnimi. He recognizes that he has a function and a purpose, and he wants to be fulfilling that purpose. It's not opening. We pointed out, this thing is really an important thing, but I don't think it's so difficult to see. I point out that a person comes into wealth without going through the process of acquiring it, does not really relate to it, does not really understand what it is. And instead of being a positive influence on him, it becomes a negative influence on him. It takes away from what he is, instead of helping him to identify himself. And instead of helping him to live a normal life. Because the pnimi is the process. We can have enormous amount of wealth. A person's mind is very great, but it has to develop. If he doesn't go through the process, like we said, this boy who knew the whole Torah, but he didn't know how he got it. He didn't know anything. That's what pnimi. Pnimi means the oir is mislabesh in the keli. Unite with the keli. Let us, for a moment, I don't want to go into wild imaginations. We have a neshama and a guf. And everything that we understand, that we experience, is a neshama experience, essentially. The guf has no experience. But the neshama, the experience of the neshama is limited in a manner that the guf is also a participant. The guf is the keli through which the neshama gives us that experience. And if we should experience the neshama experience without the limits, without the input of the guf, it would not be a valid experience. Das meint Pnimi. And for Pnimi, it has to be limited, according to the case. pointed out, a person sight, sees. So sight is a tremendous experience. You know, you see the entire panorama. But there are two limits. Number one, you see only in one direction. And number two, you don't see constantly. You close your eyes and open your eyes. This gives you the sense that you're actually seeing. If not for that, it would be a meaningless. It would not be an experience, a human experience. It'd be like a fish that doesn't know what it sees. Okay?
And so these two things of Erpinimi, Ubulumida, these are kind of qualitative and quantitative. The air, as a result of being nimshach through the Kav, is qualitatively different than the air in Tevet which preceded it. It's an air which can be mislavish in the Pneumius of the Kalim, and it's also coming in a limited way of Bulumida.
You could say it that way. The correct way to put it is that one is that they're both interdependent. Because it's an Pnimi, it comes in the middle. Like we said, the person cannot drink by jumping into the lake. It's all the similar principle. The fish can be in the water. A human being, not only he cannot drink by jumping into the lake, but breathing. You think, oh, he's constantly breathing. He's not constantly breathing. He's breathing in and stop, breathing out, breathing in, stop, breathing out. That's the show.
Paltiel, this is, you said because it's orthlemia, it comes with leader in the womb. So you could say, from functional, you could say the opposite. Because it's meaning who, it comes with pnimi. So from a purpose point of view, it's because it's pnimi, it's meaning womb. Functional, what's
Well, you could say that, but that's not really the way it was, because in Klip it can also middle group, but it has become a pnimi, and it rejects it. Like Esau, whatever he had, there was a limit to it. How did he view it? That's the rope. Because he did not take it in a oipnimi manner. So he didn't identify the limit of it. Interesting. Rashi makes a point in every opportunity when there are several questions asked the person and he gives answers, and he says Yeshiva al Rishon al Achri. I'm sure you all encountered this thing. Yeshiva al Rishon al Achri. Okay, it's a nice, intelligent way of doing it. What's the point? The point is that this is oipnimi. Take each question for its own, put it in specific value. Now that we've gotten to this, as we always look for something real meaningful in our lives, this is how we live. One day at a time, one moment at a time. I mentioned to you that when the Frierdiker Rebbe left Russia, which was a very difficult thing for the even remaining there. How are they going to manage in those circumstances without the Rebbe? The Rebbe gave him several instructions. One very principal thing is, do not try to solve tomorrow's problems today. Essentially. So I try to solve the whole issue. Respond to the problems as they come. Because they presented to you b'chinas midu gvul, because you are a pnim. Okay. Let's continue a little bit. Just all that. This entire effect, who al yidei hachochma, it is via the services of the chochma, because it goes through the chochma. Ukinoida, as it is also known, shehachochma hi bechinas oil pnimi, because that chochma is bechinas oil pnimi, is an oil pnimi aspect. This is what chochma is. Bechinas oil pnimi. As we pointed out, that even the chochma, the moshel of chochma is sight, re'iyah. There is an oil pnimi element in re'iyah, even though there is a complete panorama visible at one moment. But within that panorama, there are the details that are visible, and ultimately it provides for the bina to be able to identify what is being seen. This is the difference between rotzin and chochma. Rotzin and chochma essentially they represent the same meaning. Chochma, it says in Tanya, hu levadi hu ve'in zu lotzin zuhi madreges hachochma. All mishing mamish oirin seif. And rotzin is the same thing. The difference is that rotzin is a oir makif. It sees it all at once, and chochma observes it, and therefore it has an opening. And chochma enables it that it should be able to understood in bina and come into midas. Be'oir in soy boruhu mislabesh bechochma, and oir in soy boruhu is mislabesh, is actually imbued in chochma. La'ayin ulfakeach kaviyochel. The onus of is mislabish in chochma to examine and to pay attention kaviyochel. Be'eze eifin yi yamshoches hakav bo elamis. What should be the manner that the kav comes into the elamis? And what is the defining factor in this? That the inslapsus of Ein in the oil should be b'chinas pnimi, b'chol sfiro. That the oil Ein Sof should be mislabesh in every sfira in a pnimi manner, meaning that the sfira should identify should be able to identify itself with the oil. With the oil.
The slapshus are itself in chochma is not with the kav.
Yes, the oil service is mislabesh in chochma, and thereby it creates a kav.
But the slapshus are itself in chochma itself. It's not.
This is the chochma sheb oil in sof itself. This is the chochma in Ein Sof. That's not the chochma in seder ishtalshus. This is how it creates the kav that it should be b'chinas middle. The b'chinas pnimi, that the oil in sof in this hamshach should be in Ein Sof, but it should be b'chinas pnimi. It should be between slavish b'chol sfira. Shalom yumshach l'mokim she'niroi chas v'sholem. It should not go into inappropriate pitch chas v'sholem. Okay, this is where we are interrupting. Have a good day. We resume tomorrow morning in the session. Have a good day.
This is right after.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, no.
I know you wanna hijack it. You wanna get some of the earth around you.
Class seemed to fit more in today. Class seemed to expand today to cover more.
Sorry, it was.
The class seemed to fit more in for some reason today.
Oh yeah.
What can we do?
Huh?
It's surprisingly. I thought it'd be darker.
Over here?